Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the star line by the Executive Director for HeadCount, Andy Bernstein. Welcome.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Absolutely great. Let's go beyond the mic. Andy, explain how a former author of the Farmer's Almanac, a guide to the banned fish, is now interested in election activism. Why was this important for you to do?
I sure can. Well, it was 17 years ago, I was doing something totally different. I had written a book about banned fish, and I was working as a reporter, a sports writer. And the world was kind of falling apart 17 years ago. It was the height of the Iraq War. Kind of like now, there was a lot of real division in the country. The country was really polarized. And I just said to myself, I got to stop complaining and I got to do something. I got to try to make a positive impact here. And I said, well, maybe what I can do is just get people who go to the same concerts that I go to registered and voting. And this was after, in 2000, the whole direction of the world decided on less than 600 votes. So I said, I go to a lot of concerts with a lot of more than 600 people. Let's get everybody there voting. So I called up some friends who are part of the fish scene and the jam music scene. And one of them was in a band called Disco Biscuits. And my buddy Mark and I decided to do this together. And here we are, nearly 17 years later. HeadCount has registered over 700,000 voters. We've worked with every artist from Ariana Grande and Billie Eilish down to our core of Dave Matthews, Fish, and The Dead. And we're all over the country. And now during the pandemic, we've been more virtual, but we're still all over.
HeadCount is nonpartisan and nonprofit. Now, do people really see your efforts as truly nonpartisan?
Well, it's a great question. I think anybody who knows the organization or goes to our website, headcount.org, will see that we're extremely nonpartisan. Everything we do, we put through a tight messaging filter to make sure we're speaking to everybody, because we're values-based, not agenda-based. Our value is democracy. Our value is participating in democracy. So we're not out to register one type of person or something like that. There are always people who are going to point out that the music scene in general tends to lean a certain way, but that's not something we can control. But what we can control is that our messaging is meant for everybody, and we'll always be out there talking about the value of democracy, not voting for a specific platform or something like that.
You've teamed up with Global Citizen to mobilize voters, especially young Americans. Why do you really think you can get a portion of the population that has traditionally been one of the most unreliable demographics to vote?
Oh, absolutely. You just have to look at 2018. In 2018, voter turnout by young people nearly doubled. So there are really positive trends. And as a country, we had the highest turnout for a midterm election in 100 years. So things do change. And I think that particularly the youngest generation, this is a generation that grew up with Parkland. This is a generation that grew up with a pandemic now. And, had a lot of tragic things that have really mobilized young people. And I think that the Black Lives Matter movement may have a similar impact, however one feels about it, however one feels about the protest, it's likely you feel something. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to have record turnout by young people this year. And I think that while, yes, young people have the lowest voter turnout rate, you do see real changes over time. And I think we're going to see a positive change for this election.
Can you talk about your staff of volunteers? The heartbeat of any organization, especially a nonprofit, is the volunteer staff that helps get everything done.
Yeah, HeadCount is at its core a volunteer organization. We have 40,000 volunteers around the country. Anybody who's interested can go to headcount.org and sign up as a volunteer today. One of the things we'll be doing is a big initiative to text out the vote, where you can sign up just from your phone and text other people using a computer and get them resources like absentee ballot requests and polling place information. So we invite anybody who's listening who wants to get involved, who wants to make a difference for this election, to go to headcount.org and volunteer. And I think you'll find it to be a very rewarding experience.
Now, how easy or hard is it to get artists involved?
Well, every artist has a different story, but one of the ones that we're really proud of is our relationship with Ariana Grande. In advance of her Sweeten tour in early 2019, she came to us and said, hey, I want to really do something big here. and Ariana's become our leading voice and leading source of bringing in new voters. So it varies, but what we find is that the best artists is easy because they're the ones who want to do it. You know, if we have to cajole and be like, oh, please, 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 well, maybe that artist's heart isn't into it. But I'd say that over the years, we've moved away from that. Most of the artists that are involved with HeadCount reached out to us, and when they do, we try to be as supportive as possible and really become a partner with the artist.
Time to put your feet to the fire. What's the best Phish song, in your opinion?
Haley's Comet.
Good choice.
That's the easy one. The first time I heard it, it became my favorite song. It was in Cincinnati at the Zoo in 1993. I said, wow, this is a great song. I'd never heard it before because at the time they didn't really play it. It hadn't been played in a couple of years. And then it became my favorite song, and it never, it was love it first listen. Never stopped being my favorite song.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far at HeadCount?
The biggest lesson I've learned is the importance of treating every single person you encounter with dignity and respect and value. When you run a volunteer organization, you see that people give you a lot more than they take. And you have to always, always, always in the front of your mind, not the back of your mind, be elevating that and making sure everybody who passes through the organization knows that they matter. And every vote matters.
How does mobilizing support for artists, entertainers, media, corporations, and even nonprofits help our country's future?
Well, that's a really great question, and I'm glad you asked it because it takes everybody working together. And, you know, the odd mix in there might be like, say, corporations. Well, we find that our brand partners are as important as our artist partners. We work with Ben & Jerry's and D'Angelico Guitars, and now we're working with Tony's Chocolate, which is a fair trade chocolate brand. And brands have a lot of reach. They have resources, and they're a very important part of the equation. Just last Saturday, we were out at outlet malls around the country, Tanger outlet malls. So they're a very important part of it. But then it's the artists that obviously have the reach and the relevance. I mean, when you consider someone like a Billie Eilish who we work with, or Panic at the Disco, or Green Day, you know, these artists just have massive, massive reach, as do Dead & Company and Phish and Dave Matthews and the Disco Biscuits. So it's all a combination. It's a partnership, really, of cooperation. It's volunteers, it's artists, it's brands, it's media companies. It's folks like you. It's just, you know, we look for anywhere we can find support and a platform, and we whip it all together into a little stew that results in more people coming out to vote each year.
And how can people get involved?
As I said, HeadCount.org. You can volunteer today. It takes really seconds. You'll see that we have a bunch of peer-to-peer texting, we call it, sessions coming up. And the way we do these are fun. They're done on Zoom, so everybody's kind of together. You meet people from around the country. Someone can answer questions. Sometimes we'll even play a little music. But then on your own computer, you can individually text people, and the software makes it really, really fast. So you can literally text hundreds and hundreds of people and then answer their questions. So we encourage people to do that. We encourage people also to visit our website if you have questions about voting. You don't need to fill out anything. We have a ton of information about mail-in voting, absentee voting, where your polling place is, things like that. And I do want to add something about mail-in voting, if you don't mind. You've probably heard a lot about it in the news, and it's become very politicized. And we really encourage people to kind of cut through the politics and get the information that's most relevant to them. Now, I'm going to say something that might surprise people. Mail-in voting does have problems with it. There's no documented reports of major fraud, but what there are many, many reports of is votes not being counted for various reasons, usually because they arrive late or because there's a problem, somebody filled it out incorrectly. And it's a very, very, very large number of voters. So we just want people to be very careful.
He's a Phishead, helped found HeadCount in 2004, and has registered nearly 700,000 voters. Andy Bernstein, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Well, I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you.
And that, my friends, is a Beyond the Mic shortcut.